New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Good morning, Roy. Good morning, Wayne, and welcome to our Saturday morning Science, Mind, and Spirit Conversation series. I'm Reverend Barbara Jean from Toronto, Canada, and the Universal Joy Center. There's a whole team of us that do this. Well, this is our last week on the Science Mind textbook. Yes, this is it. We're wrapping up the general summary today, so that's an exciting thing. Be sure to put a comment in the chat. Let us know when you arrive so we can include you in the conversation. And if you have any questions, be sure to put those in the chat as well. Well, the process that we go through, as you know, for the first half of the year, we do the Science Mind textbook chapter by chapter. And then after that, we go on to the Science of Mind library and archives. And we pick up articles from there and we share those ideas with you for the rest of the year. So we will be here ongoing for the rest of the year. So don't worry about missing out. And the Science of Mind Library and Archives, you can go onto their website and just check out what they've got going on. It really is worth your time and just an incredible place to go. And it's open 24/7. So lots of things to look at. Well, today we're doing the general summary part 2. And I'm excited to do this. I really, I love this textbook. I've read it through, I don't know how many times, cover to cover, but I'll tell you, the general summary really does wrap it up with a lovely ribbon. And I am so grateful for that. So I'm on page 404. I'm not sure exactly where it ended last week, but I love this first paragraph on this page. The law can know no conditions as such. It knows form, but not size. Outline is real, but limitation is unreal to mind. In the absolute, nothing depends on anything but ideas. Ideas are form, condition, circumstance, cause, and effect. And everything that happens between cause and effect. This is what a treatment is. It's a thing of itself. And if we know that it is what we know it to be. When we're doing treatment, what we're doing is we're allowing ourselves to see the divine, perfect individual. We're not looking at the problem or the condition. We're actually looking past that to the essence. And we already know that the essence is, in fact, perfect, whole, and complete. Never been touched by any outer circumstance, never been touched by any trauma. That part of us is still perfect, whole, and complete. So as a practitioner or anybody doing treatment, well, I guess you'd call yourself a practitioner if you're doing treatment, you allow yourself to know beyond that condition. Ernest Holmes was really clear about this. You don't focus on the problem, you look to the truth, capital T truth, which is that perfection within. And in this chapter, we're talking a little bit about fear. And fear is our greatest enemy, for sure. It is a mental attitude, and as such can be converted into something else. So we always have a choice where we focus our attention. Are we focusing it on fear, or are we focusing it on where we want to go? And we might be feeling that fear, right? We might feel it. And then we allow ourselves to go, yes, and what's next? And allow ourselves, because sometimes the fear is just old conditioning, old belief systems. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough, all that kind of stuff. So we want to make sure that we're looking at fear from a different perspective. And I know I've heard in A Course in Miracles, fear is false evidence appearing real, which is a great one. Mine is feeling excited and ready. Feeling excited and ready. Because in the pit of your stomach, when you're feeling that fear energy, that's how excitement feels too. So why not just flip it? Instead of being scared of it, get excited about it. All right. So he goes on in here to say that fear is the reverse mental attitude to faith and is the result of a lack of faith. Fear brings limitation and lack in its wake and destroys the happiness and possibility of a greater degree of livingness to those who suffer from it. So when we sit back and go, oh, in my childhood, this happened or that happened, and we're bringing that energy forward, what we're doing is we're creating that suffering within ourselves. If we, in fact, allowed ourselves to forgive and move on, then we wouldn't be living in that place any longer. And it would definitely feel a little better than struggling with this. Like, I think it's the Buddhists who say pain in life is inevitable. Suffering, however, is optional. So let's not do that suffering part. Fear blocks the more complete givingness of the spirit to its highest form of manifestation on this planet, which of course is humankind. So we have been given this gift. Like, what we know is that there's one power in the universe. It's infinite, eternal, and everywhere present equally. So let's just take that statement apart a little bit. It's hot here in Canada. At least it is in Toronto. The idea, pardon me, the idea that there is within us this incredible power. Hi, Kiki. We're on chapter 24, the last half of it. So I'm on page 404 right now. So when we are looking at this idea of how we manifest, we want to just remember that we are part of an infinite universe that has only ever said yes to us. So what are your thoughts that are running? What are the things that you got going on back there that are allowing you to live in this state of suffering? Because that is really, truly an optional state. And with the science mind, when we really grasp this, that I am one with God, not separate from, different than, I am one with, which means the attributes of God are mine. The attributes of spirit are right here, all of them. And so if spirit is all knowing, I have the ability to know. If spirit is everywhere present equally, well, it must be me, the cells of my body. It must be the activity of my mind. It has to be all of me. But the thing is, I get to use it however I want. So I can be fearful. I can live in lack. I can be afraid all the time. I'm allowed to do that. Or I can turn around and go, let me look at another way. Could I do something different? Near the bottom of 404, he writes, fear is a belief in limitation, a denial that the divine is the center and source of all good. And I know we look around, we got bills to pay, or we've got, a challenge at work or whatever. I mean, the first place we go is, how am I going to do this? And why is this happening? But what we really want to do is, allow ourselves to feel all of that and then sit in the silence and begin to ask the questions, who am I? Because when we start to get an answer to that question, we start to realize that we are not this. This is a part of what we're experiencing in this life experience. And so this body is much like the dress I'm wearing. At the end of this, it'll be turned to dust, but the essence of who and what I am will continue. So he says in here that we really have to get past the fear. Fear is going to be the thing that holds us back. It's the thing that's going to cause us the greatest pain and discomfort. It is definitely something that we're not going to get a lot of good out of. He says at the very bottom, we should contact a larger field of faith. And this is done by understanding that God is the giver and the sustainer of human life and expression. So why do we worry? Why do we get anxious? Why do we get scared? Because our faith is misplaced. So what we want to do is we want to turn around and go, okay, so I'm feeling fearful. Let me just be with that. Let me ask myself some questions about that. What is it I'm afraid of? What's the worst that could happen? That kind of thing. And when I've processed that I'm fearful, because it's okay to be fearful, just process that, and then make the decision to do something different, to begin to change that energy. And we can do that. We have the ability to use our imagination in a number of ways. We can use our imagination to see the worst in the worst and the worst, or we can use our imagination to see rainbows and butterflies and sunshine. However we use that faculty is going to move us in a different direction. Now, it doesn't mean that, because I've got this all down pat, there's never any pain or difficulty. Of course there is. It's life, right? There'll always be pain. There'll always be something that trips us up. How do we deal with that something? That's the key. That's the key. How do we think about it? On page 405, he says, God is all there is. God is substance and supply, and we must learn to accept this. My apologies. I had a bit of a cold. And anyway, here we are. So this idea of God is all there is, substance and supply. When we have a problem, a challenge, a difficulty, an opportunity, it would be wonderful to sit back instead and go into a meditation asking for answers. What is my next step? What is my next step? That's the only thing I need to know, is what is my next step. I don't need to know how to get to the very end. I just need my next step. And I hear some people say, but I don't know how to do this. I got this idea, but I don't know how to do it. Well, of course not. If you knew how, you probably would have already done it. How is the universe's job, God's job? Your job is to listen and move. Listen and move. The Spirit has not withheld good from us, but ignorance of the true law of supply has caused us to have fear, which in fact holds it from us. So we're in that process of discovering, like I said earlier, it's incredibly hot here in Toronto. Probably hit about 112 or something today. The ideas that we're presenting are just so beautiful that it's important to remember that we are powerful beings immersed in this infinite presence. And so God is all powerful, therefore I am powerful. God is all knowing. I have the ability to know. God is everywhere present equally. Well, God is right here where I am. So God is the cells in my body, the activity of my life. So let's really focus on that instead of, oh no, what's happening in the government? Oh no, what's happening with our borders? Oh no, what's happening? Because that's where we want to go. And I would strongly suggest limiting news watching, maybe a half hour a day tops or something. Because it really can take us down a road of anxiety. Okay, since we cannot contract the absolute, we shall have to expand the relative. The infinite will not be or become less than itself. We are of its nature. We did not make our own being. All we can do is accept that the being which we are is some part of the divine. So if you think of the ocean, for example, if I go and take a cup of water out of the ocean, I have ocean water. There's nothing different in that cup than what's in the vast body of water. We are like that. We live, move, and have our being in the Spirit. So he moves on to talk about the fact that love alone can overcome fear because love surrenders itself to the object of its adoration. Love is the answer. And the soul must take a complete surrender of itself to the Spirit. That is, the law must come under subjection to the Spirit. The will of the Spirit is peace, clear thinking, and happiness. It could have no other will. Should we learn to contemplate those things which we are desiring and to forget the rest? We would soon overcome fear through faith. Allowing ourselves to really live this teaching, and I can't imagine getting this information and not living it, but I know that that's sometimes the case, that we get some information and we're not exactly sure how to use it in the midst of a crisis, for example. But there's a calmness at the center of us when we accept that this presence is there for us, saying yes to us. And when we get into a situation that's challenging, we feel what we feel. And I think it's really important to honor those feelings. And then we move on and we allow ourselves to really drop our awareness down into that heart center where we can listen quietly for that still small voice. See, we will be led. We will be guided. Guaranteed. There's no question. It's just, are we willing to listen and then act? Because sometimes what we get, what we're told we're going to do, we go, I don't know how to do that, or I don't want to do that, whatever it is. But whatever it is, I say, take that step. Have faith and take that step. All right. 406. Pure spirit exists at the center of all form. Of itself, it is formless, but it is ever giving birth to form. The forms come and go, but it goes on forever. We are some part of it. If pure spirit is at the center of everything and is always responding to our thought, there is no limit. You got that right? No limit to its manifestation for us, except the limitations that we set. Now think about it. You're standing by the water cooler. I don't know if we do that anymore. Standing by the water cooler, sitting down at the cafe, talking to a friend and bemoaning this horrible job, this difficult marriage, this challenging financial situation. Do we do these things? I think we do. The weather, me complaining about the heat. It's like there's always an opportunity for us to gripe and complain about stuff. But remember, our words have power. When you look at the Bible in the book of Genesis, God instructs Adam, right? Name everything. But keep in mind, whatever you name it, that's what it's going to be for you. So think about the things you're naming in your life. And just know that however you name them, that's what they're going to be for you. Not for everybody, but definitely for you. So we want to pay attention to the thinking that we've got going on and the ability that we have to take a moment and pause when we've had a really negative thought, and then to turn around and go, let me just breathe into this. Let me just release this. Let me surrender into the idea of love, which is oneness. And let me allow myself to honor me, to honor life, and see where it takes me. And what happens is we end up having a really good experience very, very quickly. Things will change for the better. Just on 407, just as we can conceive of some definite idea, then go on to the conception of another, so we can treat for as many conditions as we can clearly conceive. Sometimes you think, there's, 25 things going on, finances are rough. I don't like my job. I've put on a few pounds. I'm not happy with this, that, or the other thing. And then we think we have to create all these different treatments. No, we don't. Probably at the back of all of those things is one idea of I'm not enough, or one idea of I'm unworthy, or whatever it might be. And so we can do one treatment because we're not focusing on the problems. We're focusing on the desires, the wants. So when I do treatment with anybody, I always ask them what they want, make a list of that. And then I ask them, how would you feel emotionally if you had that? And then my treatments are always focused around that higher potential, that higher possibility, which of course is how they would feel. If it's joy, then let's just get into that joy field. So we want to allow ourselves to release all that negativity, all the fear, doubt, the worry, all of that. And the science mind is really clear that when you change your thinking, you change your life. Let that sink in. We've heard that statement many times, haven't we? Change your thinking, change your life. And then somebody will say to me, well, how do I change my thinking? Well, you're the one thinking your thoughts. You have the power to think different ones. Guaranteed. He says on 407, we have arrived, this is the third paragraph, we have arrived at the conclusion that spirit, or the mind of God, is all causation. Okay, not some, but all. Then spirit or mind is also all effect. Cause and effect are but two ends of one unity. The physical end is visible, the spiritual invisible, but may be inwardly perceived and outwardly experienced. Spirit then is all there is at this very hour, and all creation is spiritual. Okay. We've often heard the phrase, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. So when you think about that, because so many people go, well, I want to get spiritual. Well, you already are. You're there. Good job. It's done. The challenge that we have is not in being spiritual. It's in being human. How do we live with the ups and downs, the chaos, the politics, the different religions, all the fighting that's going on in our world? How do we deal with all of that? That's the external, right? That's the human stuff. And how do we deal with it? We remember we are spiritual beings. We're not confined to this form. We're not confined to this situation. We are free. We are alive. And we can be and do whatever we truly believe that we can be and do. At the end of that page, he writes, mind is forever conscious of itself and what it does. Its consciousness is its law. Its consciousness is perfect and its laws are perfect. Mind cannot be conscious of anything but itself, since it is all. Make sense? Spirit is conscious of us and exists and knows that we exist. And since God must be conscious of all that is, therefore we are, because God is conscious of us. I'm trying to get rid of all those he's and hims. Okay, so really what we're saying in this chapter is that there's only this one power. And we are in it. So it's like we're that drop of water in the ocean, or the wave on the ocean. We know the wave isn't something other than the ocean. It's the ocean. And we are that essence of God. We are not separate from. We live, move, and have our being in it. And it operates through us according to our thinking, according to that belief system that we have. So we want to pay attention to the way we talk about ourselves, we want to pay attention to how we think about ourselves and how we think about others. Kiki just wrote, thank you, it's so clear for me. I'm studying for my practitioner license. Oh, that's awesome. What they want and how they'll feel when they get it. That's fabulous, Kiki. Good job. And congratulations. The idea of really remembering who we are and whose we are really can make a huge, huge difference. In spiritual healing, the practitioner deals with thought alone, not dealing with a sick body or a sick person. There is no one to be healed in the truth, and we must think in the truth if we expect to heal. So this is the big part, and probably the one that can be most challenging for us. I remember my first, well, it probably wasn't my first, but it was the first time I had someone in front of me where what they wanted was not in alignment with what I thought they should want. So I had a young gentleman, early 30s, come to me, and I was training to be a practitioner at the time. And he came to me for treatment. And when we sat down, he told me that he had lung cancer. And in my mind, I went, okay, we're healing lung cancer today. No. When I asked him what he wanted, he said, I want for it to be okay. I want my family and my wife and everybody just to know that this is okay. And that kind of threw me. And that sort of changed my whole direction. So I stopped in that moment. And in my mind, I did treatment to clear my mind of this idea that he would get well, because that's not what he asked for. So I did the treatment as he requested it, because that's what we do. And we have to clear our mind first, because if we can't see the truth, we can't treat for it. So really, really important. And he passed about 2 weeks later. And, you know, that was a huge one for me. A good friend of mine was dying of AIDS. And I had to go to my minister for treatment because I couldn't get past my feelings that no, this can't happen. He can't die. And so I went to my minister for treatment before I went to him to do treatment with him, because I needed my mind to clear. And so we work with this all the time. And it doesn't matter if we're a minister or a practitioner. Well, we're all practitioners. We make sure that we're in the right headspace when we're doing treatment, because we want the best outcome for all concerned. Right? So really, really important. On page 409, about halfway down, he says, the practitioner works within their own mind until they are mentally satisfied, until the whole reaction in their thought causes them to understand that their patient is now healed. This healing is really the action of spirit upon the mind of the healer, the active principle of truth, goodness, and harmony. So when my mind, as a practitioner, when my mind clicks that it's done, my treatment is complete. And within probably a pretty short order of time, there will be a new experience for the individual, for sure. Okay, so we want to really just pay attention to our intentions as we do treatment, or what some people call affirmative prayer. I don't call it that. I call it spiritual mind treatment. Okay, let's move along. I'm kind of getting stuck in one area here. So, all right. So on page 411, he starts off this page saying, the light is greater than the darkness, nor has the darkness any power over the light. The darkness is the great denial of the light, but it really did not deny the light, for where the light was, the darkness was not. By merely bringing in the light, the darkness vanished into its native nothingness. This is the power of reality over seeming opposition or apparent separation. This is a really important point. Pardon me. It's a really important point to be able to sit back and realize that, if I walk into a dark room and I light a match, the darkness recedes. Not in time, it recedes immediately, it's gone back to that nothingness. If we're doing treatment and we're working with someone, what we want to do is have that kind of clarity that when I treat, I have removed the obstacles completely. When I treat, I'm treating that wholeness. I'm seeing that wholeness revealed. I'm not seeing a healing. I'm seeing wholeness revealed. As we come to that place of going, hey, wait a minute, this could be different. The relationship between the individual and the universal mind is one of reflection. That is, what we image for ourselves, it images for us. Okay, let me just put this down for a second. So I look in the mirror first thing in the morning and go, oh my God. Oh, you got a double chin. Got some wrinkles happening. Oh, there's some gray hair. Oh, man. What is the universe acting upon? My criticism of myself. My criticism of my body. When I criticize my body, I set the law in motion. And I open myself up to all manner of challenges. When we think, we set the law in motion. That's the teaching. There's one power in the universe, and I am using it always. And I might be steering it in a really destructive way, or I might be steering it along the harmony of that universal voice. Which way am I taking it? Which way am I going? So we really want to check that thinking. Check that thinking. Check what we listen to, what we watch, where we put our attention. Well, what is it that matters the most to us? The bottom of 411, he says, by giving our complete attention to any one idea, we automatically embody it. We attract to ourselves the objective likeness of this embodiment. Pardon me. The thought becomes a thing. Yes, we know that, don't we? The mental state takes on form, color, and temporary reality. So the words, just like in the beginning of the book of Genesis, when God tells Adam, name it, and that's what it's going to be for you. Well, we're doing that every day. And think about how often you use the two words, I am. I am sick and tired. I am fed up. Cancel, cancel. When we say those words, I am are the two most powerful words in the English language. And whatever we say, we're owning. We're owning whatever we say. So if we say, I am sick and tired, well, guess what? The body will, in time, respond to that exactly. And I will be sick and tired. Where is our focus? And that's what we want to, that's why we take time to do our spiritual practice. Not to become more spiritual, but to allow ourselves to get our human side back in check so that we remember like who we really are. And the important thing is words have power, and especially I am. So whenever you're using those two words, please think about what you're putting behind them. I think it was Walter Starkey and It's All God, maybe. I don't know if I'm remembering that right, but he said that, Walter's a little under the weather. However, I am perfect, whole, and complete. I'm just fine. So it's another way of using the I am in a really positive way, but at the same time, honoring the current condition. The bottom of 412, he says, the will of God is always toward that which expresses life and happiness. That is the will of God. To suppose that the will of God could be in opposition to the advancement of our lives would be to think of spirit as being self-destructive. Sometimes I hear from people, sorry about this cough. Sometimes I hear from people, well, if I leave it up to God, it'll probably be boring and awful. No, not a chance. Not a chance. Your greatness will be revealed if you leave it up to the universe. I guarantee it. That's what has to happen, right? Our thinking is going into that, and the law is going, yes, yes, yes. What's it saying yes to? I am so sick. We don't want it to say yes to that. Thanks, Kiki. Kiki's a little under the weather, but I am perfect, whole, and complete. Yeah, exactly. Our words are so powerful, and if we can use them in a way that really honors life, that's what we want to do. That's the direction we want to take. So really, really important that we pay attention to that. In 413, halfway down, he writes, in mental treatment, we should feel as though the whole power of the universe were running through the words we speak. Wow. How does that sound? So powerful. The words must become spirit and life if they are to overshadow the thoughts and actions that have brought about a discordant condition. As much conviction as we have, that we may use. So we're journeying along in the science of mind, and we're so blessed to have this teaching. I just so happy I found this. The interesting thing about moving into a space of sort of waking up to something bigger is that you will always be placed in the right and perfect spot. And if something happens, if you've been working towards some big dream of yours, and all of a sudden there's a wall and everything stops. Sometimes what happens is we start bumping up against that wall. We bang our head against that wall. It's like, but this is the way I'm going. 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 And we wonder why we have a headache or a migraine. What we want to do is pause and look around and listen to that still small voice, because probably our direction is being adjusted. And how we deal with that wall will depend on our success or failure, right? But neither of those is bad. It's just an opportunity, because when we fail in one thing, then we try something else and then we probably succeed, right? So it's just a correction. So when we look at those bumps in the road as corrections, and then we allow ourselves from there to go, okay, what is opening up for me? And sit in the silence for a while. Yes, sit in the silence. It's a good thing. Sit in the silence for a while and just be and listen. Remember, we're human beings, not human doings. Let's take time to really just relax into the moment and see what comes. On page 414, he says, thoughts are more than things. They are the cause of things. Woo! What are you thinking about right now besides breakfast? Depending where you are, it could be lunch. Let me see. Coming down to our last bit of time here, and I've been taking a lot of time, but not reading the book. I guess you could read it. On page 415 at the top, he says, there must come a time in our experience when we speak the conviction that is within us. This conviction of the spiritual universe in which we live is real and powerful. The light cannot be borrowed from another. Each has been furnished with a divine torch whose wick burns from the oil of the eternal and ever-renewing substance of faith in oneself and in others. You know how sometimes you'll look at, somebody with a disability and go, oh, isn't that so sad? No, it's not. No, it's not. It's their experience. And with it, they can do whatever they want. Like a man with no arms and no legs getting up on stage and giving a keynote address, or someone with no legs doing weightlifting and all kinds of cool stuff. We are not our bodies. And when our bodies don't appear to be working properly, it's not bad. It just is what it is. And we can change our language. Instead of calling things good and bad, just realize it is what it is. And because it is what it is, how am I going to deal with it? Because this now moment is the only moment I've got. It's my only point of power. There is no other point of power, just now. So if now is my point of power, what am I doing now? And I remember a young couple I met. They had, I think, 4 children, and one of them was, I can't remember what condition he had, but he was about 4 years old at the time, confined to a wheelchair, unable to do anything, couldn't speak, couldn't feed himself, couldn't dress himself, like couldn't do anything. And I said to the family, I said, oh my goodness, that must be so challenging. And they went, no, he's the greatest gift we've ever had. Like, he brings such light and love into our home that, I mean, we just want him to be here forever, and we know that won't be. But, you know, I thought about that afterwards, and I thought, they see this child as a blessing. And that's exactly what that child was. And that was a learning for me. Whatever people are going through is what's happening. That's what is for them. And it's not up to us to interfere or try to change it. We can try to support for sure, but not to necessarily change it. We've all created our own life experience for whatever reason, and the bumps in the road are opportunities for us to learn and grow. So why would we interrupt somebody's opportunity to learn and grow? However, we can be there for support to make that road a little bit easier. And I think that's one of the lovely things about this teaching, is that we do learn the power of kindness and our own individual expression, so that we can be part of a movement that creates a life that honors all life. So that's where I want to go. On page 416, he writes, the chief characteristic of the subjective law is that it is sensitive, creative, and can reason only from a deductive viewpoint. Being the very essence of sensitiveness, it is compelled to receive the slightest impression of thought. Being creative, it is compelled to act upon this thought. And being deductive, it cannot argue back or deny any use of it that may be made. So there's a part of us that simply says, yes, I'm an idiot. Yes. I'm fabulous and brilliant. Yes. What are you putting out? What are you putting out? What are you telling the universe? This teaching is one of the most remarkable teachings, in that it doesn't confine you to any rigorous ideas. It doesn't hold you in one place. It doesn't tell you what to be, how to be, where to be, and what to do to be there. All we say is, hey, you're an individual, I'm an individual, and I choose to love you. How's that? I like that. On page 419, he writes, a mystic is one who intuitively perceives truth and who, without conscious mental process, arrives at spiritual realization. The mystics include the great prophets, the inspired writers, the illumined souls of all ages. What we have received from them constitutes the greatest intellectual and spiritual heritage of the ages. Hi, Laura. Glad you're here. So the mystic, and I believe Ernest Holmes was a mystic. All mystics recognize the absolute unity of God and human. This is Psalm 419. Within the infinite mind, each individual exists not as a separated, but as a separate and distinct entity We are a point in universal consciousness, which is God. We are not separate from life, neither is it separated from us, and we are separate entities in it, individualized centers of God consciousness. Don't you just love that? So one of the most illuminating truths with mysticism, what it's revealed is there's no ultimate reality to evil. There is no devil, no damnation outside of one's state of thought, no punishment outside of that self-inflicted through ignorance. So we are our own punisher. How cool is that? Did you know that about you? That you're the one punishing you? That it's not God getting back at you? Now we're coming up to the end here. So I'll wrap this up in just a second. So everyone maintains a stream of consciousness in the one mind, and anyone contacting this stream may objectify it. Because of the universality of the medium, the individual stream of consciousness is always omnipresent, whether the one from whom it emanated be in the flesh or out of it. Time and space are unknown in mind. Time and space are unknown in mind. The past and the present are one. Everyone who has ever lived has left behind a mental picture of themselves. These pictures are often seen when one is in a subjective state. This does not mean that we really see the person. What we see generally is the picture, the image. The profound truth Jesus discovered and taught, that whatever is true of the human, of the reality of their nature, is the divine presence within them. Wow, 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 wow. Well, next week we move on to the Science Mind archives, and we start getting some information from there, interesting articles and stories from Ernest Holmes, and we're going to be sharing those for the rest of the year with you. Thank you so much for being here today. You are listening to this Science of Mind and Spirit Saturday morning conversation series, and we'll be back again next week. We have completed the textbook, and now we're moving on to the archive to give you some good stuff there. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. You are most welcome, Kiki. And wherever you are in the world, just know that you are loved and that you have access to the New Thought Media Network. How cool is that? So be sure, like, share, subscribe. Consider donating to the New Thought Media Network. Let's keep us on the air, folks. Anyway, have a most wonderful, beautiful day. Know that you are a divine expression of God. The archives are online, Science of Mind Archives. scienceofmindarchives.org, I believe. Yeah, so they're not in the book. These are online, and we'll share them with you each week. So that'll be exciting. These are past writings and things as well, so it'll be beautiful. Thank you so much. Again, see you all next time. Bye for now.